My rear brake pads are worn to the service limit, and the problem is the dealer doesn't have the new brake pads, doesn't have the proper parts. So in this video I'll explain what your options are when the dealer just doesn't have the proper parts that you need. This is how the worn brake pads look like. They have these rectangular notches in the pad material that the manufacturer puts in there to let you know that the thickness of the pad is now worn to service limit. This is how thick or thin they are. They are wafer thin, or the thickness of my nail or so. These rectangular notches are not especially visible from the side here, but they are clearly visible from the top here. Okay, so this pad material here has reached the service limit. The pad material is bonded, it's cured in an oven or in a kiln to this backing plate. This backing plate has this tab on here and these tabs on here and all around surround and support the pad material. So this pad material here is bonded to the backing plate. Now, option number one with this worn brake pad is clean it, wipe it off and put it back in. It will work for a week or for a month or until such time that you can afford new brake pads. Reason why this will work is fairly straightforward. This pad material, when it's mixed in a batch at the point of manufacture, is uniform and is the same through and through. So the particles that are on the bottom of the pad material are not any different than the particles that used to be at the top of this originally 5mm thick or a 1/4 inch thick brake pad, when the pad thickness was about this high. So the thickness of the pad is made out of uniform pad material particles that will provide the same braking efficiency throughout the entire thickness. And you can wear this pad material even thinner and thinner and thinner, and it will still brake the same way until you start biting into the pad, into the backing material. Okay, so that's when braking efficiency changes. So this one is, although thin, extremely thin, it's at the wear marks where the service limit is indicated, but for a week or for a month this could work fantastically well with flawlessly and perfectly safely without any change to the braking characteristics. Alright, it's not going to overheat because it's not significantly thinner than the original. Yes, I know the original was like 30 times thicker than this in terms of the pad's thickness, but in terms of the finished product's mass to act as a heat sink, it's not going to significantly generate more heat or less heat or any different heat. It's gonna run slightly hotter, slightly. So I'm talking a couple of degrees, alright? Because it has less of a mass to dissipate the generated heat. It's not going to warp the brake rotor. The brake rotor always runs cooler than the pad anyhow, and it's and just because this is a few degrees hotter, this is not going to be a few degrees hotter. This is going to be a few tenths of a degrees hotter, if anything. So whatever your braking characteristics and uses, whether it's track or coming down long hills, as in commuting and touring or whatever it is, on whatever type of motorcycle you have, the same brake pad will work for another week or another month. If you want to be really stingy, you could argue that actually there is no reason to throw away this brake pad because there is still, to send it to landfill because the pad material is still usable, and just use it then. So also in terms of racing, whether it's drag racing or track use, this pad thickness is the ideal thickness. You don't want to carry the excess bulk of a full thickness of a brake pad. And if people are shaving grams from weight of caliper, weight of swing arm, weight of cables, exhaust systems and everything, so here is one source. Everything counts and everything adds up to lightening your motorcycle for track or drag race or whatever racing use you have. So this is perfectly safe, and you can use it, and there's gonna be no noticeable change to the braking performance or braking characteristics. It has the exact same coefficient of friction at the bottom than it had in the middle or the top or the very surface. Alright, so that's option number one. Leave it alone and put it back, wipe it with a rag. Option number two, I'm just gonna leave it there. Option number two is put on used brake pads. Here is used brake pads, or one, and you can see that the same notch, let me just do a side by side, the same notch, wait a sec, is, there, I'll do a side by side this way. You can see how the same rectangular notch feature is looking on a used brake pad, but putting on a used brake pad is your second option, and it's a lot less predictable or a lot less safe than putting the old brake pad back in. And there is three reasons why used brake pads are a second option and a distant second option to just putting the original back on. Reason one, compound. Reason two, flatness. And reason three, parallelism. So these two are geometric reasons, and I'm going to explain compound. You don't know what kind of brake pad material this one has. You don't know its coefficient of friction, and you don't know if it's different from the brake pad that you had on your bike originally. This could be a fully metallic race pad that needs significantly more brake lever force to make it work, as well as it doesn't reach its operating temperature and maximum coefficient of friction until it's a few hundred degrees hot, which does not happen in stop and go or highway commuting or highway touring or commuting. So if your brake pad material is organic compound, it will not work in rain. So its coefficient of friction could be vastly different. Alright, so that's reason number one why using used brake pads is a bad idea. Bad idea number two, you see these grooves in it? That groove there is fairly deep there, and it's plainly visible, and there are some other groove lines on it. Those groove lines were produced by someone else's brake rotor, which brake rotor had its own unique shape. This rotor that I have on my bike has its own unique shape, and that shape is this. It's different. You can see the amount of color variation. It's different. It's got more bends elsewhere, and so because the rotor has a different profile in its cross section and all around its entire surface. So if you want the same effective surface area to be in contact with the rotor, this could be 20% less contact surface, depending on how many grooves, how deep grooves, and where the grooves are. What I'm saying is, this brake pad needs to be worn in and embedded into the brake rotor, just as a new brake pad should be. But when a new brake pad is flat, this one isn't. So it's gonna take longer to fully bed in. So that's surface condition, and because if you don't have enough surface area on this brake pad, and then your braking efficiency will drop. Okay, whereas with option one, putting on the original, surface area is not an issue. Put it back on, same stuff, no changes, everything stays the same, fantastically working well. This one is reason number two, surface area and its flatness. Is reason number two why putting on a used brake pad is your distant second option in a pinch. But with the first option, the absolute first option being put on new brake pads, please. Okay, so but if that's not available or is not in, so you have to get rid of the old ones because you are down to the backing plate, then put in a used one. But you have to consider its surface area reduction Okay, and issues with braking efficiency there, not only on account of the different compound, but also on account of flatness. Now, flatness can be helped a little bit with a piece of sandpaper, and I have here a sheet of float glass. This float glass is dead flat, and I have on it PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive backed sandpaper strips glued on it, 120 grit. So what needs to happen, let me just come over a little bit from the bike. You can help this problem of surface flatness by carefully lapping the brake pad, not sanding it down until it's worthless again. Just carefully lap it with as few strokes as possible. Okay, that would be the idea, because brake pad material is toxic too. Don't breathe it in, and watch out which way the wind is blowing. Alright, so when you lap brake pad, like I said, with the fewest possible strokes, okay? So just, I really should be doing it on a bench, not here on a wobbly whatever setup. You see, it's improving. The number of grooves are getting reduced, and it just needs a few strokes like this. You see, there's no more grooves here. Okay, it's super simple. There is still a groove there, and I'm not sure if I want to sand all this surface down just to get to the bottom of that groove yet. But I'll see how it goes with a few more strokes. So issue number 3 is parallelism. So now flatness has been greatly improved. Parallelism considers that the backing plate needs to be parallel with the surface you're producing. If there's too much pressure applied here while you're lapping, or too much pressure here, or too much pressure here, or too much pressure here, then it's going to be lopsided one way or another. That's not good, because it's going to be flat, but when in braking it's only going to be contacting the rotor along like so, on a lopsided way. Okay, so these two surfaces, this one needs to be parallel with the backing plate, and good luck eyeballing that. That's my short story on that. Alright, so this could work. In a few more strokes, I can turn it around to even out my bias, and maybe turn it this way too, to make sure my pressure is evenly applied. And like I said, good luck with that. It's improving. There's less and less of a groove here at this side here. So like I said, this is the reason why putting on a used brake pad is your last option, okay? Because of flatness, parallelism, and the issue of what kind of compound it's made of. And that compound that really can affect braking efficiency, or all of these factors can combine to massively increase or reduce or change braking efficiency. So that's basically what I wanted to share about this. Again, the absolute safest option is, if you don't have the right brake pads, and these brake pads are worn down to the backing plate, park the bike and wait until you have the money for the brake pads, or until the parts arrive. Okay, please, that's your absolute safest option. Put the bike down, and next time order the parts in advance, and you learn your lesson. Okay. Option number 2, put the same pad back in. If you have still some thickness to it, it will work fantastically well and is a safe option. Option number 3, that's triply dicey, is try to put in a used pad of whatever compound you can find, and make it work with lapping. Alright, so that's your absolute last option. Alright, so that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for watching. Please be safe with your brakes, okay? You don't have spare wheels or spare lives, alright? I didn't say sanding and lapping is a fantastic idea. I said it's a retarded idea, but it can work in a pinch, alright? So, those are your options. Thank you very much for watching.